8 days later after the pay-per-view, Ric Flair wins the title on Nitro. Then Russo strips Flair the following week and awards it to Jarrett, who then loses it to Kevin Nash the following Thunder. Nitro the next week, Nash gives the title to Ric Flair, who then loses it to Jeff Jarrett that night, leading into Great American Bash. We've just had 6 title changes in about 3 weeks.
Jeff Jarrett basically won more titles in 12 months than freaking most did in freaking like their old careers.
Well, I'll give you a quick spoiler alert. Up to the point where we're going to end this episode at the end of New Blood Rising, that's from March till August, 11 world title changes.
Wow.
11.
Wow.
And another spoiler alert, from the pay-per-view after New Blood Rising to the end, there is another 14.
Wow.
Vince fucking Russo. Right, so let's get to the next pay-per-view. So it is Great American Bash 2000. It starts off with Lieutenant Loco with General Rection in his corner, Major Guns and her big fucking titties, Corporal Cajun and Major Stash defeated Disco Inferno, who had Conan, Tigress, Rey Mysterio and Juventud Guerrera in his corner.
Why did you need that many people in your corner?
Next match was a tag team title match to determine the number 1 contendership for the tag titles. You had Chronic, the team of Adam Bomb and Crush, defeating the Mamalukes. So the Mamalukes are on quite a losing streak at the minute, and it looks like Chronic are the new tag team in the division that are getting the push. Up next, we had Mike Awesome defeating DDP in an ambulance match. Nearly 10 minutes that went for. Up next, because this is gimmick heavy pay-per-view this, up next, in a boot camp match, G.I. Bro, or Booker T to me and you, defeated Sean Stasiak. And then, and this is...
14 minutes!
It's 14 minutes.
Sean Stasiak went 14 minutes!
This one does me, in the whole pay-per-view, probably the whole of the fucking series that we're going to cover. Shane Douglas defeats The Wall in a best-of-5 tables match. Now, Shane Douglas gets the victory by putting The Wall through 3 tables at the fucking same time. And then, speaking of stupid gimmicks, let's revert back to Brother versus Brother. Scott Steiner defeats Scott Steiner with, he had Madeja and, did they call Shakira, I think, or something in his corner?
Yeah.
He defeated Rick Steiner and Tank Abbott in a handicap asylum match.
Tank fucking Abbott.
Oh, aye. Hollywood Hogan defeated Billy Kidman.
Again.
With Horace Hogan as special guest referee. Billy Kidman, he lost the match after hitting him with brass knuckles to become number 1 contender to the WCW World Heavyweight title. Oh, and the stipulation coming into this was that if Hogan would have lost, he would have had to retire. Why couldn't have Hogan lost there? WCW may still be alive today if fucking Hogan would have lost there.
Yep.
Because what happens next month? Do you know what I mean? That would have happened. But anyway, we've not got there yet. In the next match, it is father versus son. Ric Flair defeats David Flair. Let's touch on him very shortly. David Flair, oh my fucking God. You don't have any wrestling genes in your whole fucking body. One awful. If you think, compared to his brother...
It's terrible,
his brother, obviously, Reed, R.I.P., brilliant wrestler. Do you know what I mean? I don't think was never going to hit that level where it was ever going to be anything amazing, but it was comparing to David Flair, fuck me. Could run circles around him.
Unbelievable.
Next match on the card, Human Torch match, Vampiro versus fucking Sting.
Sting buried, man.
So this is WCW's Inferno match, but we can't call it an Inferno match, so we're going to call it a Human Torch match. Now, as much as I keep saying that we are pushing this new blood, it's a new era, it's a new time, you've got to still keep hold of some main eventers, and Sting should be the main guy to be going up against the new blood, not in this stupid arsewipe of a feud with fucking Vampiro. And then we get to our main event. Jeff Jarrett defeated Kevin Nash for the World Heavyweight title with Ernest the Cat Miller as special guest enforcer.
Ernest the Cat Miller
was probably one of very few that kind of got over to an extent during this era. Probably him and Norman Smiley. That was his gimmick got over, I'd say, probably Screaming Norman. But there wasn't many of fresh talent, of non-WWE talent or non-ex-WCW talent that had any success. Do you know what I mean? They pushed Vampiro to the moon in this feud, and he come off worse off.
Yeah.
So we move on to the next pay-per-view, which is Bash of the Beach, which is probably the most famous pay-per-view in this era. I'd go on record and say.
Yeah, I would probably say that as well.
Because it's the pay-per-view.
It was their WrestleMania, wasn't it?
It was not only that. I think it's mostly known for the fact that Hulk Hogan's turn. His turn. The kerfuffle with Vince Russo. Obviously, I'm not going to go into too much detail because I've already done an episode on the podcast which is focused purely on this pay-per-view. But let's just quickly, as we do, we'll go through the matches and some of the fucking ridiculous stipulations. So open up yet again with a Cruiserweight title match to open the card. Lieutenant Loco defeats Juventud Guerrera. We move on to a hardcore title match of Big Fito defeats Norman Smiley. And then we get a wedding gown match of Daphne defeats Miss Hancock, who goes on to be known as Stacy Keibler. Yeah. We had Chronic, Brian Adams and Brian Clark defeated The Perfect Event of Sean Stasiak and Chuck Palumbo. And just to add in, coming on the back of the last pay-per-view, Sean Stasiak is now running around, has a Mr. Perfect 2.0, and Chuck Palumbo for the last couple of months has been running around as Lex Luger 2.0, which I don't get why. Stasiak is quite the veteran at this point to an extent, but Palumbo's young, he's come out of Power Plant. Why can't he have his own gimmick? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Why do they have to be in the New Blood just because they're young? Do you know what I mean? There's not many youngsters that aren't in the New Blood.
Yeah.
It's very weird, very weird. For the United States Championship, our next match, Mike Awesome defeated Scott Steiner by disqualification. Then we had Vampiro defeated the Demon in a graveyard match, which was fucking dire, but at least it's not against Sting. And then we had Shane Douglas defeat Buff Bagwell in a singles match, and then is where it gets fucking sloppy. So we have Hulk Hogan comes out for his world title match against Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett proceeds to lay down in the ring. Russo comes out, throws the belt at Hogan. Hogan pins him. 1, 2, 3. Russo does his promo. Then we
apparently, from what I can gather, there was nothing gimmicky in this.
No, well,
it was literally there's a bit of a story to it, isn't it? It's got everything to do with Hogan and Hogan's loophole in his contract and that.
Basically, to quickly go over it, coming into the pay-per-view, Vince Russo and the creative team, they wanted Booker T to be the champion. But Hogan being Hogan didn't see that as a way forward and he wanted to be the champion. So Vince Russo, he said that he goes to the Hulk Hogan and says, right, do you know if it were real life, this is how it would go down. I'd go to Jeff Jarrett now and I'd say Hogan refuses to lose. Right? Jarrett's going to be pissed. Jarrett's going to be furious. So and this is all Vince Russo saying this. He says all this in a shoot interview. And he said this is all, so granted, take with this with a pinch of salt, to be fair. So he says to Jeff Jarrett, he goes, right, so he goes, Hulk, right? So in real life, I go to Jeff, I said, Jeff, Hulk wants to win. He don't want to put you over. Jeff's pissed. So I go to Jeff, as about we fuck Hulk Hogan over. Right? So you lay down in the middle of the ring, screw Hulk Hogan, right? He wins the title, fuck him. Right? And then he goes to Hogan, this is the kicker. You and Bischoff have got to disappear. You've got to get out of the arena. Because I then come out and do a big shoot promo on fuck you Hulk Hogan, see you later, goodbye. And then I set up a match later on in the card with Jeff Jarrett and Booker T. The winner creates a new champion. Then a bit further down the line, you come back and we have a champion versus champion passing the torch. Now, that in Vince Russo's mind, in Hulk Hogan's mind, that was how it was going to go out. And that's kind of what we saw on TV. Now, what happened was, immediately after the pay-per-view, Hulk Hogan went home. Now, Vince Russo stayed in character, and the only people that knew this was a work was him and Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff. So Jeff Jarrett then goes backstage, and him and Russo with the boys, and they're all screwing on Hogan. It comes out on the internet that this big shoot angle, and they fucked Hulk Hogan off. But it was all a work in Hulk Hogan's mind, but Hogan had gone home expecting Russo to give him a phone call the next day and say, look, Hulk, it worked out perfect. We've pulled off the best fucking angle ever. But because he didn't contact Hulk Hogan then went to his lawyers, and that's where he sued Russo and all the other fucking little legal ramifications he threw in there that went on for the next 6 months.
Brilliant.
That's basically an overall of what went down.
Wow.
Unreal. And it wouldn't have all happened. It wouldn't really be famous if it were the fact that Vince Russo would have contacted Hulk Hogan and said, "Are you cool? Is everything sweet? Right, what we'll do is we'll book you for 3 months down the line. You'll come back and we'll have a champion versus champion." But because Hulk Hogan, being the ego that he was, instantly, because Vince Russo didn't give him a phone call within 3 minutes.
Got on the phone to his lawyer.
Instantly, straight out phone to my lawyer. "Brother, look, he's damaging my character, brother." So what you got with the rest of the pay-per-view was, in between the clusterfuck of the titles, Goldberg defeated Kevin Nash for a singles match with Scott Hall's contract on the line. And as I said, the main event, Booker T defeated Jeff Jarrett to become the new WCW champion and to win number 1 of his 5-time World Heavyweight title runs. Now, this is where it gets a little bit more interesting. So far, let's have a quick recap. We have seen the last pay-per-view. We've seen the reboot. We've seen every single title change. We've seen Billy Kidman's refusal, Hulk Hogan's refusal to put Billy Kidman over. We've seen controversies. We've seen what we've just saw them with Hulk Hogan and Bischoff. But how's about a Goldberg heel turn? With WCW in the toilet, Russo attempted to basically get out of the toilet again by doing something that he'd never ever done. Turn Bill Goldberg heel. Now, this is the same Bill Goldberg who'd been out injured for 6 months. Now,
tried to do a Hogan, didn't he? That's what it was.
Exactly.
He tried to do a
Cast
Hogan.
your mind back, Dave, right?
While Hogan was off.
Imagine when Triple H blew his quad out and when he came back to all that huge reaction.
Yeah.
And imagine the WWE essentially ignoring the whole crowd, swerving them all, and turning Triple H heel at the following pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what Russo did with Goldberg. He turned him because it was the only turn that he'd not done. Now, here's a lovely little tidbit of information for you. WCW's incompetence wasn't limited to just Vince Russo, though. They placed an ad in the USA Today hyping the Nitro that Monday evening. Now, the issue of USA Today in question came out on a Thursday. So WCW effectively just pissed 50 grand up the wall to advertise something that was 3 days late.
Jesus Christ.
It gets better. Vince Russo had concerns over the inmates running the asylum when he was around, and he was pretty correct. Scott Steiner refused a job and threatened to kill Terry Taylor for asking him to do so. So he was sent home for 2 days with full pay. Scott Hall. He was scheduled to do a live TV phone call with Kevin Nash, but when they rang Scott Hall, he'd already gone out. So that is the first 5 months that we've seen from the pay-per-view before the reboot, and we've seen the reboot and all the various angles, and we've got to this point. This is the pay-per-view that's named after their biggest group on the roster at the minute. Are you pumped? Are you excited for New Blood Rising?
No.
Neither am I.
No.
The pay-per-view, it kicked off with a 3-on-3, you'd say cruiserweight ladder match, which was 3 count of Evan Courageous, Shane Hurricane Helms, and Shannon Moore against Jamie San, who was the masked Jamie Noble, Jimmy Wang Yang, and Kaz Hayashi. Why the ladders? Well, above the ring are recording contract and 3 count gold record. If 3 count get them, they get to keep the recording contract. If 3 count get them, they get to keep on recording. And if the Young Dragons get them, they get to stop 3 count recording. Tank Abbott is also at ringside to support 3 count.
Dancing Tank Abbott.
Do you know, Tank Abbott went on record actually after leaving WCW that he absolutely loved doing the 3 count angle because he just got to fuck around and get paid loads of money for it. Evan Courageous gets the victory for 3 count, so God have mercy, 3 count can carry on recording and releasing awesome tracks like I Can't Get You Out of My Heart. We move on in the card to Great Muta making his return to the WCW.
Mate. I love that man.
Ernest the Cat Miller. Now, Vince Russo had gone back on his promise to never hire Japanese wrestlers. Muta's return had more to do with the Vampiro angle. He'd not been a regular in WCW since the early 90s. My issue was, Great Muta during this time, he really couldn't be bothered.
No.
It was like by 2000, Muta knew damn well that he could kind of get away with doing fuck all in a ring and no one would notice. Going back to what I was saying, it's not many people are watching at this period of time.
Yeah.
Apart from you people in attendance. And Ernest the Cat Miller gets the win with, I loved, and it clicked when I started watching and recapping this pay-per-view. His finishing move was the feliner. My fucking name, Ernest the Cat Miller, and my finisher is the Feliner. Yeah, man. We cut to a backstage segment in this pay-per-view where Bischoff is running around looking for his mother. At least she's not rung in sick for him, I suppose. And our next match on the card is one Buff Bagwell going up against, in a gimmick that I really enjoyed, was when Kanyon was ripping off DDP and he was positively Kanyon.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, this match was Judy Bagwell on a pole, and true to their ridiculous stipulations, Judy's not even on a pole, she's on the front of a forklift. So Buff Bagwell is effectively being punished for being a bit of a prick backstage. But Buff Bagwell gets the victory in 6.5 minutes, and to save his mama. But another burial, because Positively Kanyon I thought was a great gimmick.
Yeah. Do you know what? Kanyon is possibly a very, very underrated. Well, he's dead now, bless him, rest in peace. But again, another guy that had ability, endless. Do you know what I mean? And you look at some of his gimmicks, man. Mortis was awesome.
Yeah, fucking hell, yeah.
Mortis was awesome. You know what I mean? That guy was so cool. It was like Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. Well, during the Invasion angle, when he was the Alliance's MVP, I thought it was brilliant.
I liked Kanyon. I did like Kanyon. You know, whether it was, you know, you got Champagne, Chris Kanyon, like you said, Positively Kanyon, Mortis. Do you know what? I don't actually think I ever disliked one of his gimmicks because I actually liked him.
It was a fun character, and I think what helped him was that fucking lisp that he had as well. That always helps. I love it. I bet that's why Vince signed him, brought him to fucking WWE Invasion, because Vince loves his wrestlers with a lisp.
And I loved it. Do you know what? It wasn't a lot to his finishing move, but I loved the fact that he called it the flatliner. It's just, do you know what I mean? The guy was cool. The guy was cool.
He was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant, and it's just unfortunate that he passed away at such a young age, like so many. And speaking of lovely segue. Speaking of wrestlers that have passed away, we've got Crush again with his good pal Adam Bomb. They defeated the Perfect Event. They defeated the Perfect Event, Sean O'Hare and Jindrak, and General Rection and Capel Cajun in a fatal four-way, 4 corners, whatever you want to call it, for the tag team titles, with Disco Inferno, Tigress, and Rey Mysterio as special guest referees. Fuck Vince
The referees
Russo.
were tagging it out or what, like?
Fuck Vince Russo. Honestly. But anyway, at the end, they pinned Palumbo, and Adam Bomb and Crush carry on their reign as the leaders and champions of all things WCW Tag Team Division, which is very limited. We then move on to Billy Kidman defeats Shane Douglas in a strap match. So Billy Kidman finally getting a victory in this whole New Blood versus Millionaires Club feud. Even though it's been a weird one, because there's no outright winner at the minute. Because the New Blood are getting their wins in certain matches. Granted, they come out the first pay-per-view, everyone had the titles. But it was like they killed the angle there and then.
Yeah.
Now you've just got all the heels trying to keep hold of the titles. Then we had Major Guns defeated Miss Hancock in a rip off the clothes match.
Wet dream match.
Abso-fucking-lutely. Sting defeated the Demon in 52 fucking seconds. And that was to kill the fucking gimmick. I don't know why they bothered signing them contracts with Kiss. Because they were desperate to get someone like Kiss on their TV. But it was, you've got to create a character and he's got to have a main event match. And fuck off. Awful. Lance Storm defeated Mike Awesome with Jacques Rougeau as special guest referee. Jacques fucking Rougeau in a Canadian rules match to retain the WCW United States Championship. Storm won when Rougeau attacked Awesome and Awesome couldn't get out before the 10 count. Rougeau, he changed the rules during this match to make it so pinfalls had to be 5 counts. The title couldn't change hands by submission. A wrestler had a 10 count to get up before being pinned, and that a wrestler would lose if they couldn't get up before a 10 count. Now, Bret Hart came out to celebrate afterwards, and the crowd had been baying for Bret pre-match before the special referee was announced. although the heel Canadians cheated like crazy and the crowd still popped, this is a fine example of Vince Russo not knowing his audience. This is another reason why WCW died during this year. They're baying for Bret. You're in Canada. They're baying for Bret. You bring out Jack Russo. He's still a Canadian. It kind of works. Bret comes out. But you book the heels to be ultimate heels where they're getting pops. Because Vince Russo sees in his mind and only his fucking mind. We then move on. Because you can never get enough of crushing Adam Bomb. We get them again. Vampiro and the Great Muta defeat Chronic to become the WCW World Tag Team titles champions even in 9 minutes and 6 seconds. If one Chronic match wasn't enough, plus this one had Vampiro.
On what planet would you put Vampiro with a legend like the Great Muta?
Because they both wear face paint and it's Vince Russo.
Dark Carnival. What a mess.
That's the only fucking thing, just because they wear makeup. But it was obviously, this was all the build up to, we're going to have the Chronic versus the Harris brothers down the line now. I couldn't think of anything more disgusting than seeing 4 near enough 7-footers battle it out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's awful. Awful. And then we get Kevin Nash defeats Goldberg and Scott Steiner in a triple threat match after Nash pinned Steiner with a jackknife. This match, this, for me, I think I've found a new turning point in why it dies. Because Vince Russo tried being internety and smarky and shit. Because he booked this match where Goldberg would refuse to lose. Thus exposing wrestling as basically a joke. But that was an angle. Do you know what I mean? We're not talking Bash at the Beach backstage and all this bollocks. This was actual and on-screen fucking angle. And the smart fans on the internet absolutely bashed the hell out of it. Just being so retarded. And for Vince booking it that way.
Yeah.
Just because wrestling fans understand that it's pre-planned doesn't mean they want a big sign on TV saying, this is fucking fake before every match.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
The angle led to Steiner losing to be a good professional. Do you know what I mean? What is all that about? You're on your fucking arse as it is. Do you know what I mean? The match that a lot of fans wanted to kind of see is a three-way power match. Do you know what I mean? Goldberg, Nash, Steiner, 3 main eventers. It got reduced to a load of bollocks about like kind of fake booked finishes.
Yeah.
And that makes does that make you want to buy the next fucking pay-per-view?
It fucking make me, well.
I do not. Do you know what I mean? I think, not.
You know, kind of looking back now, basically what we just spoke about, it's just duplicate off duplicate off duplicate.
It's like, do you know how WWE used to call Canada Bizarro World? Yeah. This is a Bizarro fucking world promotion. Nothing makes sense. There's no continuity.
You just look at it and you just think, how... I don't want to go down the route of saying, you know, it was, you know, Vince Russo basically, you know, ruined that company and stuff like that, because, you know, there's obviously bad eggs, and, you know, we say the same with WWE now, you know, with the writers and stuff like that, and who's booking these things, and, you know, but Vince Russo was booking everything.
That is it. Vince Russo
was booking everything.
It is hard, you know? Through watching a lot of this stuff to recap up to this point, it is hard to put the blame on Russo, because Russo's not the one wrestling the matches, but Russo's the one that's putting everything together. And it's hard at this point. We've got one more match to go until we've hit midpoint of where we're going to do this final year review of WCW. And up to this point, I'm firmly in the corner of... Well, I don't know. I was going to say of Russo, but I'm sat on the fence, I think, at this point, because he's booking the shit, but he's not the one that's wrestling the matches.
No, exactly.
But he's coming out...
I believe is there was guys doing stuff in that ring that should never have ever been in that ring. Or basically, it's like if you go to work and you do a shit job. You know, you're going to be pulled aside and you're going to be, you know, basically told off. But the problem is he had no power over that locker room.
No, none at all. People didn't respect him.
It's your typical football team. It's your Chelsea's, your Manchester Cities, right? Managers have little power. You know, unless you're basically a guy like Alex Ferguson, who, you know, basically he was the man. You know, he told you where you sat, what you said. If you didn't like it, you'd be gone. You
Yeah.
know, that sort of manager doesn't exist in football anymore. Players dictate, and this was the problem with WCW. I believe your Kevin Nashes, your Bill Goldbergs, your Hulk Hogan's, your Scott Steiners. You know, certain guys dictated. You know, basically what they did, how they did it, and how much money they got paid. And you know, and this is the thing, is naivety and desperation. People like Vince Russo and even Eric Bischoff, to a certain extent, were too soft.
Yeah.
Too soft.
I think it was all balls to the wall to begin with to get everybody on board, and it was offering anybody anything. Like when they brought Nash over and Hall over and Hogan before that, it was balls to the wall to get them there. But once they got them there, they were like, fuck, they have got so much power. And instead of like, because WCW at this time, they could have easily. I imagine with like what we spoke about with how much money they've lost during 1 year, 62
Yeah.
million pounds in one fucking year, $1 million. They could have easily saved half of that and gone to court and got these contracts ripped up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they didn't.
Yeah.
They decided just to roll over because they thought Hogan's and your Nashes and your fucking Jarrett's meant ratings.
Well, the thing is, you know, how many times did the likes of your Kevin Nash's, your Scott Halls, your Hulk Hogan's, renegotiate contracts? I mean, you know what I mean? Renegotiate.
Yeah,
It's a
no,
key word there.
it was all down to
Renegotiate.
if another big like when Bret Hart came in, because I'm sure I read that when Bret Hart came in, Nash and Hall went to Bischoff and went, well, we want Bret Hart money, because when
Yeah.
they first came
Yeah.
in, they went, well, we want Sting money. If
Exactly.
we're not getting Sting money, we're not coming in.
And I believe that's basically, you know, it's not basically, it was fact in WWE. Vince wanted to give Scott Hall X amount of money, and Scott Hall basically, you know, when Kevin, because I think it was Kevin that went first, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, no, was it Kevin or
No,
Scott went first? Scott went
Scott went
first,
yeah.
and Kevin Nash was going to stay. I think as far as I basically want to read, Kevin Nash was going to stay. And Scott Hall basically said, Kev, he said, I can get you this much money here. So, and then Kevin Nash will, if you can get me this money, I'm going to go there, you know? And that was the thing. They basically, I don't want to get on the thing of saying bad things about Scott Hall, man, because I idolize the guy. He is probably, with Jake Roberts, possibly in my top two, you know, wrestlers of all time. Like, but guys like that were so powerful.
Too powerful.
In terms of people believed they were bigger than what they were, you know, in status. Where if you basically, you know, if you looked at what they'd achieved, again, use the word underachieved. Kevin Nash was huge, down to basically the likes of, you know, Shawn Michaels, who vouched. Because as Vinny Vegas, he wasn't he wasn't exactly doing anything in WCW in the early 90s, was he?
No.
You know, he went to WWE, and he was made a big thing. You know, his size, the way he looked, his gimmick. Shawn Michaels are created. Do you know what I mean? Diesel. And Kevin Nash will never forget that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know, Kevin Nash will never forget that, and Kevin Nash knows. You know, it was down to Shawn Michaels. Is who he is today is down to Shawn Michaels, not Kevin Nash.
Yeah, no.
Because without Diesel, you would never have had Kevin Nash and the NWO.
No, definitely. You know, without Razor Ramon, you would have never had Scott Hall.
But it's just down to people, weakness in people. You know, when these guys have two or three matches, they knock on the door and they go, "I want to renegotiate my contract."
Yeah, and they just allow them. And that's
every
we've seen.
Every time someone else signed a contract, they wanted to know how much did he get paid.
Yeah, because I want to be on his money, and he's on more than me. I want more.
And that is what killed. That for me is what killed WCW.
Definitely.
Weakness in the ranks. Not the guy writing the story, because at the end of the day, you know, that's all he's doing. He's writing a story. He's booking a match. He's basically, you're going to go on first. You're going to go on second. You're going to have this match. You know what I mean? You're going to do this. People don't like it. They don't like it. They don't have to get in the ring. They can say, listen, I'm not doing that. you know.
Exactly.
And
look
that's
what we've
it.
seen. We've
But
got
no,
people like Hulk Hogan. People like Hulk Hogan in 2000 that still feels the need to be. He still feels it's appropriate for him to be the top dog on a fucking promotion. Does it fuck?
he's an idiot. He's an idiot.
Fuck? So let's just quickly finish the pay-per-view itself. New Blood Rising with a WCW title match. Booker T wins the title. It's over Jeff Jarrett in 14.5 minutes. So we're coming in. So we'll wrap it up here at 6 months. So we've done the first 6 months. Booker T is your only probably shining light coming out of this if you're not part of the New Blood, I'd say. And Dave, one last thing before we finish. In one line, sum up this first 6 months of 2000 that we've covered for WCW.
Wrestling Armageddon.
Couldn't have put it better myself. It's my concern, right, is we've not seen anything positive.
I'd like to know, you know, who was the main guy, who was the boss, who was the guy basically, you know, paying the checks.
Ted Turner.
You know? Exactly. So, like again, it's the thing. Who was at fault? Clearly, Ted Turner,
and
a clueless man that had lost his heart, just holding on for dear life up until the point where WWE purchased.
He wanted to beat WWE. He was passionate on beating WWE, and when it come to the point that he wasn't going to beat WWE, he still tried when he should just have pulled out.
There was no animosity.
No, well, they worked together, didn't they? There was many years ago. WWE,
they were good friends, weren't
McMahon, they? Yeah, they had. Vince McMahon wanted to put WWE TV on TBS, and he appeared on WCW programming.
You know, and that's the thing is, you know what? No, none of them. It shouldn't have been as competitive as it was. You know, and I feel that if it wasn't as competitive as it was, you would still have a WCW today. You know, it was a case of one company was basically run correct, and the other one just kind of
run into a mess.
They overspent.
Oh, fuck me. Hell
they
yes.
overspent, you know, and that's a case. You know, Ted Turner basically to this day will have to question his own, you know, kind of
thinking, logic,
naivety, poor business sense. You know, he made all that money, you know, and he lost it just as quick. You know, I would go as far as saying Ted Turner buried his own company. Not Vince Russo, not Eric Bischoff, Ted Turner.
Oh.
Because at the end of the day, Ted Turner's the guy. Ted Turner's the guy making the decisions at the top. You know, if I'm head of a multi-billion-pound corporation and I see shit going wrong at the bottom, I want to know why. You know, I want to know why. So if Ted Turner isn't asking them questions, clearly people they can just go about doing their job the way they want to do it because no one's questioning it.
So are we saying then after the first 6 months of the final year of WCW, Vince Russo and Ted Turner 50-50? You share the blame?
I would say so.
The mess that we're at now.
Yeah.
And we'll finish that there then. So next episode we will do the remaining 6 months of WCW, finishing in the simulcast of the final Nitro and Raw and all the clusterfuck. And we may look further down the line. We may touch briefly into the invasion just to see how people like Sean Stasiak and Chuck Palumbo are getting on.
Sean Stasiak running into walls.
But Dave, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on this first one and one of many future episodes. If you just want to let everyone know where they can find you on the Twitter machine.
You can find me at 69Butcher on that evil Twitter machine, and I'm going to be around a lot more.
Definitely. And as always,
it's going to get painful.
And as always, guys, WW Podcast 20 on Twitter, facebook.com/WW Podcast 20. But from one Dave and from another Dave, until
Double D's out.
Double D is out.